What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You saw it in the thumbnail. We are talking about the new release from Terre that seems to be a bit polarizing from the information I have gathered. This is Terre Eau de Parfum Intense, if I could get it to focus. There we go. This is a 50 ml. I picked it up recently from Fragrance Buy. They've been stocking both size bottles, 150 ml. And I went into this one a little skeptical because of the notes of lava rock and coffee and licorice, and I thought it would be a bit more challenging, like in the realm of Eau Intense Vetiver. I've always found that opening to be quite challenging, which I do have a bottle of it. And I was overly pleasantly surprised with how this actually turned out. And I want to talk to you about it here today. So stay tuned. So this one, kind of breathtaking, and I don't mean like captivating. I mean like suffocating, dry, intense. The name intense is fitting here. So performance we'll talk about in a little bit, but yeah, mindful of the sprays, I would say start with less and dial it up more as you feel necessary if you're the heavy spray type, because this one will choke you. It will. And when it opens up, any of you familiar with what lava rocks actually smell like? Lava Rock Garden, if you've ever been around the aisle at Lowe's or Home Depot with lava rocks, you're familiar. It's very distinctive, dry, somewhat earthy, desert sand-like, orangey almost type of smell to it. And I think this really adds to this kind of acidity that I get from the bergamot. So it's bergamot listed, but with the lava rock, it kind of smells like the orange of Terre to me. But they list bergamot, so it's bergamot. But it's a very acidic type of citrus up top. And I do get a little bit of coffee here. I get like a dry ground coffee type of smell, not a brewed pot or anything, or coffee beans. Like a medium roast ground coffee that's yet to be brewed. And a hint of the licorice. It's a little ambery, it's woodsy. As it dries down, it does rear its head with the Terre DNA. That earthiness shows through. But I think this is the kind of fragrance that only a company like Hermes or companies like Hermes would go out on a limb to try in the first place, because this has been a mixed bag the way it's been received from, like I said, the information I gathered. I was very skeptical going into it. I blind bought it under the assumption of, let me just try something new here. And I think it's one of the better designers to come out this year, because it's definitely one of the most interesting, while staying tried and true to a classic, a modern classic men's DNA. And bringing something new to the fold, this is an interesting, bold twist on Terre d'Hermes. I don't think it's over-the-top licorice, so if you're not a fan of licorice, obviously your nose and your skin varies from my own. I don't get tons of licorice. You may get more of it, so sample first. This is a dangerous blind buy if you're skeptical, because there is licorice here. It doesn't offer a very strong sweetness. It's a super mild, candied sweet, black licorice type of smell. The coffee, I would not call this a coffee fragrance, though it is supportive and noticeable. It's mainly about the lava rock and the woody vetiver earthy smell with the citrus are the main things that I get personally. And it's a very dry fragrance. For being as acidic, citric as I stated is, it's actually a pretty dry fragrance as well. And dries down nice and mild. Starts off really strong and intense, choking type of fragrance. Dries down relatively smooth and ambery with a touch of licorice and a bit earthy. Overall, I think this is beautifully done. I am very much impressed with the way this turned out. Not a safe blind buy. Sample if you're interested. Now on to performance. As I mentioned earlier, this one will choke you out, at least for me. I think it's that dry and intensively strong in the opening. Longevity on this one, I get 8+ hours with it, so it's no slouch. Most of the Terre d'Hermes line are pretty good performers. Eau Givray, I never tried Eau Fraîche, but Eau Givray even above average in performance and longevity with the Parfum, the EDT, the Eau Intense Vetiver. They all seem to be great on the longevity. This is also great on longevity. Projection super, super strong, especially that first 20 to 30 minutes. Like I said, be easy. You could always add more sprays as you see fit. This one in the first hour to hour and a half, I would call moderate to heavy. At the first 30 minutes, like heavy, heavy, heavy. Super, super strong in the first 30 minutes. But hour to hour and a half of moderate to heavy projection. It's pretty stout early on and dries into an overall moderate sillage where I do get pretty consistent, nice whiffs of it. It's not light and faint to the point of where I got to go searching for it, but I get the occasional reminder with the way I move in certain directions, because I typically have the fragrance on the sides and rear of my neck. I try not to spray anything up here to preserve my nose as best as I can from nose fatigue, and sometimes I'll spray my arms. I might have it on my hand, because I've been doing some testing the last several days since I got this, because I've been so intrigued with this one. I've immediately been spending a lot of time with it, and across the board I would call it an above average performer. Not a beast, but, you know, like 2 clicks back from what most would consider a beast, because it's very long lasting. Not crazy, last you till the next day kind of stuff. I mean, I wouldn't know. I'd take a shower long before I'd be able to clock it at that point. Projection's overwhelming at first, and then gets, you know, settles into pretty strong. And then the sillage is nice and noticeable, not weak, not really powerful, kind of falls in between. So across the board, I would call it an above average performer. Final thoughts on Terre d'Hermes Eau de Parfum Intense. Super, super surprised by this one. I thought, this was my assumption. Again, you don't know till you try, right? My assumption would be, especially with my first impression, that, you know, at best I would be able to consider this very good in the 7 out of 10 range. Maybe even like just better than good in the 6s. And I ended up like really, really liking it. And then now, after spending time with it, testing it, understanding its performance, the way it behaves on me, this is an outstanding release from Hermes. They're known for putting out some really good stuff. And this, to me, is more impressive than any of the H24 fragrances, which I like the entire line. I wore Terre d'Hermes Parfum recently, did a revisit with that one, and I love that fragrance. This is more impressive. While that's a milder, better everyday signature type of fragrance, this is just impressive, and it's not so overwhelming that I don't think I can wear this one in the heat. I think I can pull it off in the heat as well. I think this is year-round. Interesting, very different from everything else. Outstanding release at 9 out of 10. This is one of the best and most impressive designer fragrances to come out in 2025, in my opinion. Like this, they stepped outside of the comfort zone of what most people expect from a designer release, a mass-marketed, you know, mid-level designer fragrance line like Terre d'Hermes that's heralded and praised over the years. So they kind of had to bring it to keep the fabled name going strong, and I think they did. Again, there's a lot of people that think this is terrible, or, you know, too much licorice. I've seen a lot of things, a lot of feedback people have told me in the comments, and to each their own. That's why I strongly advise sampling this fragrance. This is not a safe blind buy. Though I did blind buy it. I blind buy so you don't have to, is a age-old motto of mine. I love it. I think it's a top 5 release of the year personally overall. Not just in designer, because it's just so interesting. I really think they put their best foot forward with this release, and I would encourage you, if you want to try something different and you like the original's DNA, you might want to get your nose on this one, because you might be thoroughly impressed as well with Terre d'Hermes Eau de Parfum Intense. Well, that's my thoughts and feelings on Terre d'Hermes EDP Intense. I'm a fan. I don't know how many of you have tried it. What do you think about it? Did you think it was terrible? Do you think it's amazing like I do? Do you fall somewhere in between? Are you intrigued to try it? I would definitely encourage getting your nose on it if you find it interesting, regardless of what anyone else says, including myself. You won't truly know if you like it until you try it for yourself on your skin and smell it with your nose and go through the motions, right? So I appreciate you guys checking out the video. There's a link down below if you want to check it out. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe before you leave. We'll see you on the next one.